Good afternoon and happy Juneteenth. This is Denise Rollard Barnes, publisher of the Washington Informer and host of Let's Talk. We've got an exciting show for you today. So much going on. As you all have already heard, the election took place on Tuesday. The DC Democratic primary or the DC primary took place on Tuesday. And it appears after the concession letter from Kenyon McDuffie that Janice Lewis George is our Democratic nominee for mayor of the District of Columbia. We're going to have a whole lot more about that. Reporter Sam Collins and DeMarco Rush are there at the Busboys and Poets on 14th Street. So while they're setting up there, we're going to get started with just another segment of our program that we feel as though is so important to talk to you all about today. We've got a representative from the Greater Washington Urban League, Kimberly Corbin, who's going to talk to us about a fatherhood program that's going to take place this weekend. I'm going to let her give you the details. We'll do that, and then we'll jump to Sam, along with Misha Green, our managing editor, to talk about Tuesday's election. But let me first welcome Kimberly Corbin to the show. Kimberly?
Thank you, Ms. Barnes, and thank you for having us on and really celebrating and giving us an opportunity to celebrate what another new initiative of the Greater Washington Urban League to bring Black families to a higher place of wellness and strength.
Well, we're talking elections, we're talking politicians, we're talking about leaders of the city, but none of that happens if there's not none of their goals or their plans or anything they're going to do. Policies happen unless you have healthy families and healthy communities. And so that's why I'm glad that you're here to talk about this initiative. Tell us about the Black Fatherhood, Birthing Black Fatherhood Liberated initiative.
Yeah, absolutely. So we created Birthing Black 3 years ago, and we were focusing on perinatal mental health training for Black health and wellness professionals. We continue to take and dig into the health and wellness of the Black family, understanding that without a strong Black family, you have stress, more chronic stress, and more loss of life. So the Greater Washington Urban League chose to really engage and invest in this space. And so we started with the perinatal mental health training 3 years ago. We just finished training. We have trained over 250 Black health and wellness professionals to address mood and anxiety disorders in birthing families. And we learned about this specific one that is focused in on paternal. So we are really focused on yesterday and today, we are focused on the paternal mental health of Black fathers, to be fathers, soon to be fathers, and folks who are already fathers. Because we know that our fathers are often ignored. They are often treated as if they are optional, and yet without a father, we know that the health and wellness of the children and the mother are less when the father is absent.
Well, it's Father's Day is Sunday, right? And I have not seen any commercials. I haven't seen anything compared to what we saw for Mother's Day celebrating fathers. And I think that's, a lot of us are now trying to figure out what are we going to do for Dad for Father's Day, the fathers in our households or father-like figures. But I'm curious, when you talk about sort of like postpartum or the issues that fathers experience, give us an example, because it's something that we probably don't even recognize when it's happening with the men.
Yeah, so the statistics are, if the mother is experiencing depression, so is the father. And the father experiences depression during that perinatal time frame just as much as the parent, the birthing partner does. And so, but the father doesn't have the same level of circle around him to say, hey, who can he talk to about depression? Who does a father go talk to about depression? He's concerned about protecting his family, making sure that his birthing partner is doing well. But when he's going through depression, he doesn't always recognize it, and he doesn't have the same places, safe spaces for him to go and have a conversation with. So, and on top of that, we're talking about gender norms, masculine toxicity. He's supposed to play a certain role, but maybe that's not really the role he wants to play. And maybe his partner's okay with that. So who does he go talk to, and how are we showing up for him? That is the really important thing. So I'd say on this Father's Day, it's not about the tie. It ain't about the cologne. It's about showing up for him and creating a safe space where he can be himself and he can be him true self no matter what that is.
So, what will this? How does this initiative work? How are fathers involved or trainers? Talk about that part.
Yes. So this is specifically, we are partnered with Postpartum Support International. This is a Black only training because we know when people of color support people of color, we have better outcomes. So we know that we have a small percentage of Black fathers and Black sisters who are in this space. So we decided to be on the end of expanding the workforce that can identify and treat mood and anxiety disorders in Black birthing families, right? So today is focused all on what does the father experience? What are the things that we can do to improve the father's role and safety, as well as acknowledge that he goes through psychoses and depression and all of that stuff the same way? And how do we treat it? How do we absorb it? And so we are training today. There are 80, I think, folks in the class, Black health and wellness professionals that are learning to do that. The Greater Washington Urban League pays for the training and pays for the certification. And they come and learn. And we have learned, so many of them have passed the test, and so many of them are just doing the work. And they are coming back to us and telling us how many people they have been able to help identify and then get treatment for the depression.
What is the goal? I mean, how many people do you hope to serve through this initiative?
Well, we've already done 3 cohorts for the perinatal, and we have already outpaced the size of the venue that we were at. We were doing 100 people at a time, and now we're going to have to, for the perinatal next year, we're going to have to find another place because we're well in excess of that. For the paternal, we're at 80, but we want to get that to 100 every year. We
Right.
want this to be a signature program. And thanks to PSI, as well as this year, the Department of Health gave us space for free and gave us the opportunity to do this. So it's really important that this is a collective because it is a crisis, right? Mental health is a crisis, especially in this perinatal space, not just the morbidity and the mortality. It is also a mental health crisis as well.
Kimberly, I wish we could talk more about this. It's a
Fine.
hot news day for us. And so we put the information up where people can learn more and participate in the program this weekend. I want to thank you so much for
Thank
being with
you.
us. All
Thank you
right.
so much.
Okay. Have a great one.
You too.
I want to bring Misha Green on while we get ready to talk to Sam P.K. Collins so we can have really find out what's happening at this press conference, but also begin our conversation about Tuesday's election. As we know, the Democratic primary the primary was held here in the District of Columbia. We've heard ads, we've heard everything, people trying to get folks out at the polls. And so, the election took place. Hopefully you voted. I hope you voted. Although we will talk about it because the voter turnout was extremely low. Sam P.K. Collins is down at Busboys and Poets on 14th Street Northwest. The Democratic mayor nominee, Janice Lewis George, is holding a press conference there. So we hope to get everybody on. Is Misha there?
Hello, hello. I'm just going to get this light out of the background.
Yeah.
How are you? It's been a busy week. And, we've obviously talked, but how are you doing, DRB? Because
it's a busy week, but it's one of those moments in time that you really look forward to because this election we're now looking at possibly the third woman to become mayor of the District of Columbia, the 9th mayor of the District of Columbia. and a new leadership for the district. I thought the race was going to be a lot tighter than it was, but clearly the voters had a mandate, and so we are going to kind of hear now where the ball goes. But it was a great run. I mean, I think we had some amazing candidates in this election, and lets you know what the future leadership, present and future leadership of the District of Columbia will look like if other folks don't get their fingers involved. If you know what I'm talking about.
Exactly. No, but you're so right. I think every candidate really made me excited about the fact that folks care about the district. They want to see positive change and to ensure that residents thrive overall. And yeah, I was very shocked. I think we forecasted hearing late next week or even early July. So I was shocked at the results, but again, there was also a wake up call that we still need to get more folks out to vote. So I see that Sam is ready to come on with us as well. I'd love to hear his experiences at the precinct.
And actually at Busboys and Poets.
No, I'm saying
at the precincts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tuesday. It seems like it's loading. What I will say is I ran to sorry, not to Busboys, to the precinct on Tuesday as my workout, as well as to vote. And I got in really fast. When I drove past 3 hours later, the line was outside the door.
So what precinct do you vote at?
Where do you vote? It's not my precinct. I am actually Ward 4, but I ran and voted at the Woodridge Library.
Okay.
I knew it would be active. I knew, there'd be a lot of folks there. And where I live, I'm able to run to a few different locations. And so
that's in Ward 5.
That's in Ward 5. Correct.
Yeah, because if you look at the numbers, and I said I looked yesterday, haven't looked again this morning about where the greatest voter turnout was, and clearly it was in Ward 4.
Yeah,
that's where most of the voters were engaged, and so far, what the Board of Elections shows is where the greatest number was. The lowest voter turnout places were, it seemed like Ward 2, possibly Ward 1 and Ward 8. And so what it takes to get people engaged, I really don't know, but maybe it's because it was a primary. I don't know. I really would like to know why people are not as this is this is what the 250th anniversary should be about. If we're talking about democracy and we're in a country where the voter turnout is so lackluster across the country, what does that say about our democracy? And so when we talk about 250 years, we don't need to be talking about boxing or wrestling matches or whatever and fireworks. We need to engage the public. So I don't know. Hopefully a lot of them will be there and will get re-inspired at the opening of the Obama Museum tomorrow in Chicago. I hear it's beautiful and look forward to us going out and doing our own story. We weren't invited to the party.
We got to change that. What I will say is shout out to Stacey Brown and Brenda C. Seiler, both who made the story happen. Brenda was at an event in DC with Valerie Jarrett months ago and got a great interview about the Obama Center, and Stacey was able to also do some research and we were able to get the story up. But yeah, we got to change that. Obama. I
felt it when he was here and I'm still feeling it, but he's still a president that we're very, very proud of. He and the First Lady, who we're still very proud of. I'm going to take a minute, Nisha, to share with the audience the concession letter that Kenyon, or press release that Kenyon McDuffie issued today, this morning, and basically saying that, while the certification process continues, it's clear that voters have chosen a different path. And earlier this morning, he called Janice George to congratulate her on her victory and to wish her success as she prepares for the general election. And people need to know that there's another election coming up in November. He thanked every voter who participated in this election. He says tens of thousands of Washingtonians who placed their faith in our campaign and all of our volunteers, supporters, staff, family, just thanking everybody who believed in his vision. The campaign may be over, he says, but the work of building a safer, more affordable, more prosperous city continues. And today we will be speaking with members of our, oh, that's me. So, yeah. So anyway, again, the campaign may be over, he says, but the work of building a safer, more affordable, more prosperous city continues. What's your feedback, I guess, on the McDuffie campaign? And oh, there's Sam.
Yes.
Peace and blessings, y'all. How y'all doing?
Doing okay, Sam. PK Collins, how are you?
Doing well. I can't quite hear you. It's kind of loud in here where I'm at, but we're waiting on Democratic nominee Janice Lewis George, currently the Ward 4 council member. As of this morning, it's all but official. She is the Democratic nominee for DC mayor. The room is going to fill up in quite a bit. From what we saw with Ken McDuffie's concession this morning, he is respecting the results. He said that the voters are going in a different direction, and that pretty much alludes to the spirit of what Janice Lewis George was embodying throughout the entirety of the campaign, that district voters are looking for something different. They're looking for a more equitable district, one that is more responsive to residents, and one where pretty much people feel like they have a chance in the city. And from what I've been told, people have the sentiment that Lewis George ran a better campaign. She was more affirmative. And in addition to that, she had the better ground game, touching all 8 wards of the city and really speaking to all of the people.
Well, Sam, so experience was not an issue for them, for voters. Is that what you're saying? I don't think we can hear.
Would y'all mind please give me some space while I'm on the live stream, if you don't mind? If you don't mind, can I please, I'm right here. Like, I was here first. I'm asking respectfully. I can go back and forth with you all day. Let me know. Let me know how you want to know. Let me know how you want to do. I'm just trying to get space. You're man in my face.
I love this. You all, I just had a meeting earlier this morning about what do journalists really do?
Right.
This is it, folks. You're seeing it live.
Through, right?
All right, pardon me.
That is part of it for sure.
So the question, Sam, was, a new direction was, and can you, with claiming more experience.
Sorry, say that again.
Care about this experience. All right, so I think we're having technical problems. Sam is trying to hear. I guess we're in his ear right now.
Yeah, it's just
so who's
I'm trying, y'all. I'm trying my hardest.
Right. That's okay. So if we're still on the air, Sam, come back to us when Janice gets there.
All right, awesome. I'll see y'all soon, hopefully.
Okie doke. Thanks.
It's great to see folks filling in with DeMarco live there as well.
May as well keep the camera on while we talk.
Yes.
So that I'm throwing that question out there, Misha, because it was predicted early on that Janice Lewis George attracted a new what is it? I don't know, a different voter in the district. When you talk about wanting change, when you talk about wanting inclusiveness or what have you, which I thought, I'm trying to figure out what that is, what that means compared to what voters felt McDuffie could not offer. And what he was banking on was his years of experience. Same thing with Vincent Orange, said the same thing. I know this council, I know this city, I know what it needs. But this is when you say we want to move in a different direction, where are we going to be headed?
That's a great question. And I think a lot of folks are not positive what the direction is, other than that they know they want something different.
Mm-hmm.
From a lot of Sam's interviews and the feedback that we've received from viewpoints this entire election season is that they thought that Councilmember Louis George presented almost the antithesis to what we've experienced over the past few terms with Mayor Muriel Bowser. And I think the thought was, whether this is factual or not, is that there were many assumptions from the general public that it would be another continuation of the Bowser administration in um, selecting Kenyon McDuffie as the next mayor. And so that was the main thing. The other feedback that we received about Janice was that, was the excuse me, Councilmember Louis George.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, is that she it's a breath of fresh air, very similar to what folks saw in New York Mayor Mandami. I think that the Democratic Socialists of America in general are getting a lot of excitement around the nation in terms of progressives seeing something different, seeing people who want to tap into leadership or approach leadership from a different lens and work to change how folks are able to thrive in the nation. I mean, I think we're looking at DC, and we know DC has always been an expensive city, at least in my life and time, but the almost complete eradication of the middle class here in the district, and those kinds of things that, Councilmember Louis George really talked about, and I think connected with district voters. And so, we'll see. I appreciated former Councilmember McDuffie's concession statement, because it made me realize that he's also excited to continue doing work.
Yes.
And, I was a little scared watching some of the debates, thinking, whoever wins, I don't know if they'll be able to work together after this.
Yeah.
But I know that's politics. So I'm really excited to know that hopefully a lot of good things will happen, and that they'll really work collaboratively. All of the, as you said, really impressive candidates among all of the races. I hope we'll work collaboratively to get things done in the district.
Well, I think it's exciting to know that there will be another new council member, apparently, Aparma Raj from Ward 1, someone who is not a familiar name to many of us in the city who have, been engaged in DC politics. And so I'm not quite sure for nationality, but I think as a council member, she's probably the first as well. And we'll find out what I mean by that unless you know.
No, I wish I knew exactly, but I believe it is a barrier breaking role, just from what we know about the DC Council in the past. And again, from what I hear about Aparna Raj and the coverage that Sam has done, and the people who have given feedback, is that she also brings a new energy.
Right.
And so, your question is great. People are moving in a different direction. Where is the city going? I don't think anyone knows, to be quite honest, but I think they just want change.
But I think we still ended up sort of in a familiar territory with Robert White
Yeah.
who won the Democratic primary election for the delegate to the District of Columbia. We know that, there was a lot of going back and forth with him and was it
Pinto.
Brooke, yeah,
Yeah.
Pinto, and her relationships and what have you. But of course, she was a familiar face all over the city as well. But Robert White, DC native, formerly
Go-go lover, a member of the
worked in on the staff of uh, Congresswoman Norton, member of the city council for many years. One succeeded in that election.
Yeah.
So
Sam says he's back. The one thing I'll just say to that is that there were at one point the race was really close between Brooke Pinto and Robert White, and this is just as a district voter, not by fact by any means, but to me things shifted.
I'm sorry. Yes.
After that information about his family and had his home address and things like that, we saw that we know DC is a very political city, and we know that we can, get down deep, but mud is not really where we're comfortable. It seems like, and that seemed to be a shift for me. I don't know about you, Sam.
Sam, whatever he did, now it's just like he's comfortable in a seat and space and not everybody in his face. So what's going on, Sam?
Well, I think what we saw was just a result of bad political advice that consultants have given over time. In terms of the whole dossier situation back in April with Councilmember Pinto, I think that was the turning point, Misha's point, pretty much. At some point, people could have not even predicted the outcome of the race. Robert White was a favorite, but I think that seeing the mudslinging get to that point really put a bad taste in people's mouths. You don't touch people's families. As one supporter told me, you don't mess with Deacon Bobby being Robert White's father. Once that happened, it was just like, okay, not even that. And even, building beyond that, there was a Don't Rank Pinto campaign that was going on. Now, mind you, the flyers that circulated didn't have any designation as to who was involved in that, but there was a sentiment that people should not even rank Brooke Pinto as one of the candidates of their choice. So we saw a lot of support coalescing around DC Councilmember Robert White, not a Democratic nominee for the seat of his former boss, Eleanor Holmes Norton. And I was at Turkey Thicket on Tuesday. Robert White, alluding to the recent NBA championship game, he wanted to keep going and going and going to the very end, not like what the Spurs did when they gassed out. But he said, at the very end, he just articulated his ability to build on his mentor and former boss's works. And nobody more than him was intimately involved in that, even with a current Norton staffer on the ballot as well, Trent Holbrook, who did not accumulate a sizable amount of votes. So it just goes to show, as far as the name recognition, the rapport built over, many years. And even with, Robert White having ran for mayor at one point and people expecting him to have made that decision again, all of that were key ingredients for a victory that we saw.
Forgot about that. You're right, Sam. Yeah, because folks thought he was going to run for the mayor's seat as opposed to delegate for the District of Columbia. Let me ask you. You talked earlier about this new direction, right? And I'm trying to. You talk to voters. What is it that Kenyon maybe stumbled on? That Kenyon McDuffie stumbled on, and Council Member Louis George, was straightforward on. What is this new direction that people evidently are looking for, as he put in his statement?
No doubt. Before I go on, there's an announcement that the Democratic nominee for mayor-elect Louis George should be showing up any minute now. In regards to your question, DRB, It is about rhetoric versus action. Just taken from bit of McDuffie's language there. So McDuffie has really fashioned himself to be one of the more moderate, even keeled so-called council members on the council. Even with the Near Act passage, even with his support of returning citizens, at times he has been seen as a darling of business interests, one who was a stumbling block to more so progressive efforts to create a more equitable city. And we saw that with the RFK negotiations that with him at the helm were more favorable to businesses, and if not for Janice Lewis George and Ward 5 Council member Zachary Parker, wouldn't have benefited the unions and more working class people. So when he jumped into the race, he did speak to baby bonds, he spoke to the Near Act, and he spoke to his efforts. He spoke to his ascension as first a mail carrier, a high school graduate unsure about his future, to becoming a council member. But at the very same time, there were people who just could not let go of that history on the council, in addition to his connection with the utility companies, who are to that, according to the Sierra Club at least, who had garnered the most visits with Kenyon McDuffie out of any council member within a period of time. There was even allusions to when he sort of softened some of the provisions of the climate change bill that he and Mary Che championed a few years back. So, with all of that, there's just a lot of memory. People don't lose memory here in DC. That's just what it was. And even the rhetoric was very anti-Janice Lewis George. It wasn't pro Kenyon McDuffie. What is it that I would like to do? What is it that I could do? And he couldn't quite reconcile his tough on crime stance with his history as somebody who had been arrested by police before.
Yeah, good point. Good point, Sam. Because a lot of people thought it became a battle between the two of them, as opposed to what was going to benefit district residents and district voters. But lastly, while we still have a little bit more time, you've had a chance to look at the numbers. Voter turnout, how would you describe it?
That's a great change. Voter turnout not as strong as people would have hoped for. That's an issue for the Democratic Party to sort of tackle. We are about to get started in just a little bit, but at the very same time, just wanted to pivot a bit. Speaking about the Democratic slate battle between the Democrats United for Free DC and the Free DC slate. Voter turnout was an issue because there's still a portion of the electorate that did not participate in some wards more than others. And that's going to be an issue that's going to be an all hands on deck effort for people to take on in this new era. It's about electrifying people, helping them believe in government once again, helping them see the value in voting. Because, as I was told at the polls, people, especially those east of the river, they don't see, their civic duties translating quite into change. And this is especially the case for residents who live in apartment buildings. So members of the Free DC slate, Phil Pennell in particular, touted the need for tenant organizing. So in a jurisdiction like Ward 8, where a sizable number of voters live in apartment buildings, how do we organize them? How do we bring them along to make sure that they are engaged civically in all aspects of their life? So that's going to be a challenge, moving forward.
Yeah, we've consistently seen low voter turnout. I think on this side of the river, post the Obama election, I think when people were poured out into the streets and around corners, like Misha described over in Ward 5 on Tuesday, we haven't seen that in years. So what's happening there now, Sam?
People are waiting with bated breath for the mayor-elect. So I'm going to have to sign off in a bit and give this here my full attention. But y'all got a front row seat right there, thanks to DeMarco.
Yeah. No, well, look, it's perfect. And I just have to say, speaking of, the Informer family representing, is like DeMarco, Sam, and
all right. Go ahead, Sam. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam, and glad that we can get this. I just wanted to note, our former managing editor and still wonderful contributing writer is also in the background.
Yes, Kevin McNair.
Kevin McNair.
Yeah, but a lot of the local press there. It's good to see, Misha, local press, because
yes,
our group has been declining over the years because of what's happening and with media generally.
Yes.
But it's good to see a room full of reporters who are there to tell their constituents, what's happening in the city. Um, I don't know. I don't think we can
I was
hear.
gonna say, I'm gonna try to mute and see if that makes a difference because I can hear something, but nothing really.
Yeah, this was an experiment that I think we've done really well with. What we're missing is the mic.
Yep, we're missing the mic.
Missing the mic.
And I think DeMarco has one. If he could sneak around and put it on the table next to her, that would work.
Yeah.
Might save
Well,
me.
we can say that Sam will have this in his story, which we will probably have posted within a couple of hours.
Yeah.
And we just want to thank you folks for joining us. I haven't seen if there's any feedback, if anybody's commenting, but we would like to know how folks are feeling about this election. You're watching and have some comments about the voter turnout. Feel free to comments in the chat, so we can open this up to our viewers. Okay, she's taking questions now.
Yeah, it's a little muffled.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna work.
Simon in the back, if you might want to just mute DeMarco for a second while we wrap and see if we can bring him a little louder once he moves his mic. Yeah, no, and I was looking for it. I guess maybe the easier way is on my phone. So excuse me, folks, while I check. But I did see, here it is, that Norton, Congresswoman Norton, also made a statement this morning congratulating Robert White. And one of the things she noted, excuse me, is with his background as counsel in my office and I think she meant service on the DC Council. Robert White's experience and tenacity prepare him to take the torch as DC's delegate to Congress and carry it into the future. Congratulations, Robert. I know you will never yield. So
wow, that's good because we haven't really heard from her much during this whole campaign season. So it's good to at least get that remark from her.
yeah.
And then have we heard anything about from the former Ward 1 candidate about the new?
I have not seen that. Again, please don't quote me, viewers. Go back and look at Sam's story. If I remember, she did not endorse Aparna Raj. And it was another candidate.
Brooke?
No, Ward 1 is Nadeau, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so Brian Nadeau. And so from what I remember, she did not endorse Aparna Raj when the original, campaign was going on, and I think it was another candidate. Please don't quote me on this, but I remember that it was not Aparna. So I do want to say that it'd be interesting to see her feedback. Whether she's supporting her or not. In other times where council members have chosen not to run for re-election, they've said that they'll continue to support their successor. And we've seen, Vincent Orange make himself available to Kenyon McDuffie as well as Zachary Parker. Brandon Todd make himself available to Councilmember Louis George. I don't think there was any crossover with former Mayor Marion Barry and Trayon White. But certainly, we've seen it happen in the past, and I think that hopefully Brian will support. I'm just calling these people like I know them personally.
I know, we keep doing it, but in the newsroom we refer to them as that.
Exactly.
In the stories we're more.
We're far more formal, we promise.
Yes.
But Councilmember Nadeau hopefully will also make a statement and be supportive of Aparna Raj as she gets to dig deeper into her ward and know the concerns of the residents there.
So the interesting thing is that in Ward 4, we're going to have another special election, because now that Councilmember Lewis George has, assuming that she wins the general election in November, that seat will become vacant. And the voter turnout again in that ward was it was the largest in the city in Ward 4. And it's would be interesting to, and I'd love to talk to Sam to figure out who do you think will be the heir apparent for that seat in Ward 4? Who are the folks that have expressed interest, and maybe even who Councilmember Lewis George might be supporting to succeed her? Any thoughts about? And then again, the mayor's been pretty quiet too. Just running the city and getting ready to transition into her new life, which is, she says she's getting out of politics. So we have to figure out where she's going. I think she mentioned in an interview I had with her about going into corporate America. So that's good. She'll be able to pay that college tuition for her daughter. That is, still has a little ways to go, but it's certainly probably going to take that path. But I'm just wondering, Ward 4 politics has just become a very interesting playground for politicians.
Yeah, well, I didn't even, as I was talking about the former council members that helped the next, I didn't even think about Mayor Bowser, because of course she was also the Ward 4 council member.
Exactly.
And before, well, no, Vincent Gray was Ward 7, but
Sharon Pratt.
But Sharon Pratt and Adrian Fenty.
Right.
So yeah, I didn't realize the hotbed for the or at least the pipeline, we'll call it, from Ward 4 to the mayor's seat. But I have no idea who would even be a great option. Obviously, there are a lot of people civically engaged in Ward 4. As a Ward 4 voter, though I voted in Ward 5, I can say that I saw people out and about regularly and knocking on doors, and just, not just about the Janice Lewis George mayoral campaign, but about, just being civically active, knowing what's going on in the community in general. So I have no idea. What I will say is that how they did former Councilmember McDuffie's election, his successor with now Councilmember Donnie Crawford, is it was the council voted, and so I don't know how that will work. Is that what will happen first? And if that's the case, Donnie Crawford was recommended by Councilmember McDuffie. So my thought is that Councilmember Lewis George will do the same.
Well, Councilmember McDuffie resigned. He left the council.
Right.
Lewis George is still a council member, and she will remain a council member until November.
Right, but then, or until January.
January, right. So
right, but her term is still on. She wasn't for re-election.
So there may be someone who will have to be.
Yeah.
Well, what the Board of Elections does, because they may have it depends, like you said, they may have that read the Washington Informer and find out what that next step is.
Exactly.
I want to ask another question. I wanted to talk to Sam about it, because this was the first election where we used ranked choice voting. And I'll be really excited to hear from the Board of Elections how many people actually decided to rank candidates or just vote for the candidate of their choice. Was there much ranking going on? So
I from the people I've talked to, just personally, no. Certain positions, certain races, yes, but for at least the delegate and mayor, a lot of people decided to just vote for one person. You were saying this is when you were in Cuba, but when we had our voter guide special show, DCBOE as well as the League of Women Voters gave really, really wonderful information about why ranking does work. And I want to give kudos to so many organizations in the district that did several tutorials and forums and virtual Q&As just about ranked choice voting. But they also helps people understand that you can do what works for you. And so, I think that that's what folks did. The bigger thing was that I hope that ranked choice voting did not dissuade voters from coming out. I don't think so. We've had low voter turnout in elections past, unfortunately. And as Sam said, that's something that the Democratic Party needs to address in general. But I am, a little concerned that some folks had no idea what this ranked choice voting thing still is, and might have been a little leery about what to do.
It's interesting. I'm reading a press release that was sent from Robert White. And in it, he said, we would be remiss if we did not note that in the Ward 8 Democrats ranked choice voting straw poll, that Louis George also won decisively with results that closely mirrored the citywide outcome. And once again, Ward 8 voters show that they are paying attention and that they know who is speaking to the future they want for their ward in the city. Janice spoke directly to the hopes and needs of Ward 8 voters: safe neighborhoods, affordable housing, strong schools, good paying careers, and a city that does not leave our communities behind. This victory shows that Ward 8 should be at the forefront, not in the background of any serious conversation about moving the district forward. I'm really, it's interesting that in his congratulations press release to Janice George, he focused on Ward 8.
Yeah.
But, Robert White has done that consistently. And so it's interesting because sometimes people in Ward 8 or east of the river do feel left out or left behind. And you can see it in the election outcome, participation. But this is probably what needs to happen to get, when Sam talks about that re-engagement, words like that and sentiments like that are probably what, needs to happen. He even thanked every Ward 8 voter who cast a ballot. I mean, he went on and on about Ward 8. So,
No, I'm not at all surprised about his, being, as you said, he's been a long supporter of Ward 8 and for quite some time while the current council member was in transition.
I'm misreading this. This was actually from the Ward 8 Democrats. It wasn't from Robert White.
Got it.
That makes sense, because I'm trying to figure out, why is Robert White so focused
loves those people.
I love him, but yeah.
He does love Ward 8. I was going to say, he loves the people of Ward 8 so much. And either way, and as I was saying, when Trayon White was in transition, he was critical to keeping a pulse on what was happening in Ward 8, being the face really for the council in that particular ward. And we know, unfortunately, at that time, the district was going through so much flux. And so he was so impressive to the Ward 8 community that I wouldn't have been shocked had it been him.
Right.
I do want to shout out the Ward 8 Democrats as well, because they've been on it. I saw Troy Dante Presswood's coverage day of. Now, Troy is also a media guy like us. And so, though he's a member of the Ward 8 Democrats, he has some skill in media. So, I do want to say that. But it was really great to see them engaging Ward 8 voters in the way they were doing by. Troy was conducting awesome interviews with people at different polling sites just about why it was important to vote and the concerns of Ward 8. So, I want to shout out again all the organizations in the district who have been really uh, focused on getting voters out and educating voters and also making it clear that we have a lot of concerns here in the district that need to be addressed. So,
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I wanted to when we talk about Ward 8 too, I was thinking about the turnout um, for the special election
mhm,
for the DC Council, and it looks like Alyssa Silverman has made her way back
indeed,
to the council. Ward 8 resident Jacques Patterson and Donnie Crawford, who has served,
yeah,
um, you know, did okay, but not. They were not able to. Uh, I would say, take advantage of the criticism that Alyssa Silverman, but she's another one. She is another one who has been ever present when she was on the council, everywhere,
every
all
place.
over the city,
Yep,
and even when she was not on the council, she continued to be everywhere.
yes,
So it evidently paid off for her.
yeah,
Because she did. It appears as though she will be the at-large member um, nominee for the nominee for the at-large seat on the other at-large seat on the DC City Council.
yeah.
So congratulations to her as well.
Indeed. Congrats. And I just wanted to shout her out in particular because the last, at least I saw her in person, was at our beloved James Wright's funeral. And I just, that was even in Maryland. She left, and I don't think she hadn't announced her campaign, but just knowing James covered the council for a number of years, and just knowing that it meant enough to her to pay respects, meant a lot to me. So,
Yeah, yeah.
to say that.
Quite
Yeah.
surprised and pleasantly surprised. I mean, no other council members or elected officials that I can think of. And James interviewed a lot. He had a long history of covering the District of Columbia, not only for the Washington Informer, but for the Washington Afro and the Washington Post.
Mm-hmm.
So you build these relationships, and to see that she thought enough of him to come and bid farewell, I think it meant a lot to all of us. But she's back on the council now. What I think she's licked her wounds from whatever the criticisms were that they've had, folks have had about her in her past service on the council, and now that we have, and this is a word, Misha, maybe you can define it. I just have not figured out. And I asked Charles Allen this one time, and he told me, he said, Denise, I don't have an answer for you. But I said, I keep hearing this term called progressive. And we're defining certain council members as progressive. I asked him, I said, what is a progressive? And he said, well, I don't think there's anybody who would want to say they're not progressive. Correct. Right. But from a legislative standpoint, what does it mean? And he said, really, I can't answer that. So, but there is a meaning. People voted for, as you said, a progressive, someone who appears to be a progressive leader in the city, and then the other term that you used, socialist, right? So for a lot of DC residents, that's going to have to be defined.
Yeah.
What does that mean? And then what does that mean for them? In some ways, some people have defined them as, people who love, dog parks and bike lanes and, things like that. But that's just a little bit of it,
Yeah.
That's not the real meet. And I think folks want to know, what does that mean?
Yeah, and I too need to dig into it more from Sam's reporting, as well as a little bit in Prince George's, from Richard, and of course Prince George's is its own ball game right now.
Yeah, we can do the same thing next week because their election is next Tuesday.
We'll get back to you guys on that next week once we figure out what's going on. But even nationwide, these terms are being tossed around, and to me, the very basic meaning for folks is that it's a difference from what has been the norm. I think particularly with this election, it had a lot to do with folks pushing back on. I was thinking of the nicest way to say it, and I don't have it. So I will say politicians working with corporations, and that being really frustrating for a lot of DC residents. I mean, you and I certainly have, even in the past 15 years, have seen such a change in the district in accessibility for certain residents that just does not exist anymore. So, and we could spend 2 weeks talking about whose fault that is. Certainly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think that back in the day when Marion Barry was mayor, nobody, or maybe there was, but not a lot of criticism, because it was the corporations. I mean, we are a corporation. Washington Farmers are a corporation, and there are a lot of small businesses that are corporations on they're LLCs or C corporations or what have you. They're not all home-based businesses. Well, you can still be a home-based business and be that. So when you talk about anti-business or corporations, it impacts a lot of us.
It does.
You really want to know, what does that mean? Because we are the number one employers in this city, right? And so, again, that's why I'm just curious. I don't remember. And I would love to read. I'm going to go back and do some research on what Councilmember Louis George promised in her campaign about how she would be supporting small businesses. Those are the ones that suffered, right? More so because their doors were closing. The restaurants and all other kinds of small businesses that suffered during the pandemic, and have continued to do so because of policies from the Trump administration, anti-DEI and other things that have affected us in a lot of ways. So I hope that, when you say progressive and socialist, that includes, the lifelong
business owners.
Exactly.
So, don't forget it. Well, as I said, I was in a meeting prior to this about what I did a few months ago with the Story District. But as I say, sometimes, and you also mentioned it with Obama, the Black press, I think, is the most forgotten of all of the press. So even though the press is being persecuted in many ways, we see the historic Washington Post is suffering as well. But I say that to say, you can maybe have a problem, progressives out there with businesses who are, trying to take over the district and things like that. But don't forget about your small businesses and the Black-owned small businesses, and particularly the Black press.
So on that note, as it becomes, all about us, I think we're going to sign off now. Misha, let folks know. I know Sam will be filing his story soon, so you want to talk a little bit about that, and then we'll bid farewell.
Yes. Stay tuned for Sam P.K. Collins' part 2 of maybe parts 3 and 4 of the mayoral race, particularly, on the DC primary in general. But part 2 will be on this press conference that we see below us with now the Democratic nominee for mayor, council member Janice Lewis George. That'll be up in the next couple hours. You don't want to miss it, as well as in your Win Daily tomorrow morning. So, it's Juneteenth, but we still got work to do. So be sure to check out Win Daily and see all the stories we have, as well as Sam did a great piece. It's, I believe, in today's Win Daily, but about the Ward 7 parade that's happening tomorrow to celebrate Juneteenth. So go out and check that out if you can. And then Jada Ingleton did a great piece on Juneteenth and Pride. So I also just want to tease that because it's a week of liberation, indeed.
Well, I just hope that everybody's still here and they're not up there in New York celebrating. Not everyone went to New York to celebrate the victory of the New York Knicks.
You know they did. They done left us.
Yep. And in closing, let's just do this together. We want to wish every father out there a happy Father's Day on Sunday.
Yes. And, of course, I want to shout out my daddy, but I'm going to shout out your daddy because we would not be here without Dr. Calvin Rolark. So we continue to keep his legacy alive. And thank you.
Thank you. So with that, we want to thank you all for joining us. We did our best. We tried to get you all the news as it was happening, but you'll get it soon. And continue to watch us here at Let's Talk, and we will see you next week.
Where do you